Paid for by Save Juneau, P.O. Box 32142 Juneau, Alaska 99803 Molly Duval Chair. Top contributors Wayne Coogan, James Wilcox and Robert Jacobson.
Hello, it is Alex Sargent on Did You Know Juneau, and today we are interviewing Dorene, who is running for an area-wide city assembly seat. But speaking of that, let's have you tell us a little bit about yourself.
My family moved to Anchorage when I was in school. So we first went to elementary school off of Tudor Road. I used to ride Tudor Road, if you guys are familiar with that. It's like a 4-lane thing with lots of traffic. It was dirt when I got there. So I've really seen Anchorage grow. When people say this is how it's always been, I'm like, actually, no. You know, we've made different choices, and this is what we got from our different choices. Graduated from high school, Anchorage School District, went off to college, came back home. Been here ever since. Lived all over South Central Alaska, have traveled all through much of Alaska. Came here to report on the legislature for ABC Fox. And Core Alaska was kind enough to invite me to join them for a year, and I decided to stay because I love it here.
We all love living in Juneau, but it is expensive. Save Juneau is very concerned about costs of living. What is one idea the Assembly could implement to lower Juneau's cost of living?
We could press our electrical provider. And I'm not going to say AEL&P because I think the folks who work there are doing the best they can with the resources they've got, and there's the realities of wanting to keep your job. Avista really treats Juneau like it's a colony. So as a result, they're not really doing the infrastructure development that they should and could be doing. All you have to look at is their annual report, and it tells the whole story that Juneau is like the red-haired stepchild. And if you live in a place like Montana or Texas or Spokane, life is going to be great. I actually went to their headquarters and met with the folks a couple of years back. You know the mechanics building that's right across the street from the cruise ship dock? My client wanted to take that, turn it into a destination location distillery, and then up on the ridge build a 4-star hotel. And they told us, we're not really so interested in doing anything with that. And then they took us for lunch in a building that's just like the mechanics building, but they had completely tricked it out. So there were offices in there, and a brewery, and a really nice restaurant, and it was a working part of the community. You go to the building here, and you find syringes, you find walls that are, you know, falling. They're using it for storage, and they're parking, and they have no intention of developing it whatsoever. It's kind of the way they're treating Juneau. It's like we're taking what we want out of you, but we're not putting a lot into. Why that manages to the average person in Juneau is because if we had an electrical provider who is actually meeting our current demand and our future demand, we would be able to plug in our electric cars, and it wouldn't be that expensive. If we had Sweetheart Lake online, we would have heating in the downtown core for next to nothing. We would be able to have these heat pumps, and as many people wanted them could have them. It wouldn't be limited like it is now. Plus, Kensington Mine, who pays for a lot of our taxes here in Juneau, would be able to plan out and extend much further than the 5-year timeline they currently have, and they wouldn't be using diesel generators, which are putting out 16% of the pollution in Juneau. One choice, I mean, RCA told them they could have a monopoly if they met our current and future needs. They're not. And instead of just giving them a pass on that, all we'd have to do is say, hey, meet up to your obligation, or we'll find some competition.
Interesting. All right.
And that is the Assembly's job to do that.
Okay. All right, so both at the state and city level as well as the private sector, there are tons of vacant, open positions in Juneau's workforce. Why can't Juneau attract more people to live and work here?
Because it's more expensive than Anchorage.
Keep it short.
And Anchorage doesn't have a sales tax. Anchorage's property taxes went down over 44% in the last couple of years.
Interesting.
Ours didn't. Anchorage has a reliable public transportation system. So if you know you go to the bus stop, you're going to get to work on time. Anchorage keeps the streets plowed in the winter.
Yeah.
So if it's a matter of practicality, where are you going to go? Anchorage or Juneau, where you're going to get paid less in a lot of jobs than you would if you lived in Anchorage, but your cost of living is considerably higher.
How do you see the role of the assembly member and city manager, which is hired by the assembly?
I used to be on Seward City Council when I was your age, and we went through quite a few city managers. The first guy I was there was, I'm not going to name names, but he was kind of a whatever the mayor says, that's what we're doing kind of person, even if the mayor didn't agree with the rest of the council.
Yeah.
And a lot of things didn't go to council that should have.
Yeah.
Fortunately, he didn't last very long. The next guy we got was a bad hire, and he ended up leaving his wife for a prostitute and moving to Florida, I want to say. Lots of drama, trauma. It's like great for reality TV, not so great for managing your city.
Yeah.
Eventually, we ended up with a gentleman who had been a city manager several other places and had a really good track record in places like in rural Alaska of getting the city on staff, on budget, all the services met, no trauma, no turnover. That's what you're looking for. So we hired him, and he ended up being a really good hire. Yeah. That kind of process needs to be really public. You need to be able to have it in open chambers when you're asking the questions so the public can weigh in and really get to know and have faith and confidence in the person you're hiring. Of course, you have to have executive session where you're discussing things like salary and what you're going to offer, because if they know how much you're going to offer them and that you're willing to pay more, if they're going to counter with the more, it just makes sense that portion of it would be closed. Yeah. But other than that, it really should be an open opportunity for the public to have faith and confidence in the city manager and also get an understanding of why the assembly is making the decisions that they are. You know, you talk amongst yourselves and people hear what you're saying, hear what questions you're asking, see by your face how you're interested in what's going on and what's being said.
Going into your role as a possible assembly member, how would your decisions be affected by public opinion, testimony, versus the using your knowledge and judgment you've gained on issues?
You have to have a mix. So if you look at my website, you can see quite clearly, people ask me a question, what do you think about this? My initial response would be, I don't really know. So I have an inquisitive nature, and so I go and ask around. If there's something online that I can read, reports, studies, what other cities have done that with similar situations that have failed or been successful, I want to do my homework so that when I go walking down the street and say, hey, you have an experience with this. Could you share with me what's going on in your point of view? I'm already educated. You're not educating me. I'm already educated. So when you say, hey, I'm having problem X, I can say, well, I understand that other people who've had problem X's also sometimes experience 1, 2, and 3. Do you have this going on too? And do you think this is a possible solution? And if not, what are the comparative advantages of something else? You can have a real conversation that is meaty and important in terms of decision making, instead of just saying, do you think this is horrible? Yeah, it's bad. Yeah, I think it's bad too. I hear you. People are really well-intentioned, but it's work, and you're basically it's not well-paid work. You're not making a lot of money on assembly, but it is a lot of time, and I don't think people who haven't had the experience before realize the commitment that you need to have to really do the job right. It's not something you can really coast on.
Very good, very good. So this is a hot topic that is going to be on our ballot, and it is the City Hall. Do you support public servants promoting the City Hall with public money? Do you have an alternative option to solving the ill-managed public building we have today?
Disturbing situation. So I am 100% for keeping, let's take it away from City Hall for a minute. Let's say any ballot measure, because for me it's any ballot measure, it's not just City Hall. I think it's extremely appropriate for city staff to come up with position papers that show you these are the facts. This is the problem. These are possible solutions. These are possible outcomes from the solution. There's some might have a comparative advantage. This one might have a different comparative advantage. And laying it out for the population so that when they go to vote, they're informed voters. And most everyone does that already. That's just part of what we do. So you don't have to have a special vote for that to happen. And that's something that goes into your booklet. And if you have a website, which a lot of cities usually do, you put that information up on the website. It doesn't cost $50,000. And the idea that you would spend $1 of taxpayer money to influence their vote, to advocate. Advocate's a really nasty word. You should never be advocating for a ballot proposition. There's no reason for a building to have $14 million in deferred maintenance. That's a significant red flag there that there's definitely something wrong, especially in a town that has much wealth as Juneau. We're not poor here.
No.
You know, this isn't some village in the middle of Alaska with no economy that's cash. And everyone's living off of subsistence. That's a total, if it was that situation, I wouldn't be as harsh. But here it just shows bad management practices. And obviously you can't fix something overnight that took a while to build up, but you can do things like when you know you're going to be buying a vehicle and you have a vehicle that you've paid off, you keep paying that amount and putting it in a fund, so when it comes time to buy the new vehicle, you're paying cash for it instead of financing it, so you're not paying all that interest, which can double the price of the vehicle. That's something that smart cities do. I don't understand why we're not doing those kind of things, especially with our building maintenance, because it's very easy to predict when those things are going to happen.
Some 400 homeowners appealed their property tax assessment this year. Talk to us about property taxes.
So this is a nationwide problem. It's not just Juneau. If you have not been following the news, let me tell you that there's been a big bubble in the market. So that means that prices have just jumped up. And the bubble is now starting to pop. So prices are starting to drop. Knowing that it's an artificial thing, I mean, there's nothing intrinsic in the value that all of a sudden, you know, we're not mining the gold that's a lot of these houses are built on top of. So their intrinsic value isn't any greater. We know they're going to deflate a bit. The idea that you would manipulate the mill rate slightly so that each property owner is getting, what is it, an average of $135 that they're not being charged, when instead we are charging them thousands of dollars more than what they budgeted for. It's not a kind thing to do to your citizens. So the easy thing to do is math. And you just look and say, okay, how much did they pay last year? Let's manipulate the mill rate so that this year it's a flat and they can write the same check. Or if you have significant amount of money coming in from internet sales tax that is not designated funds, you can put it anywhere. You have a jump in cruise ship tourism. We're flush with money we weren't really expecting. You lower that. But for this year, right after COVID, when we have other funds that are not designated, to ask the property owners to pony out significant amounts of money. Commercial properties, it's 50%. Some residentials, it's in the high 30s. Together, that's almost 90% jump in property tax in 1 year, without the ability to testify on it, without the ability to vote on it, without the ability as an electorate to say, yeah, this is okay, this works for me. I think we can do better.
If you could make a promise to voters that you would swear not to break, what would it be?
I think you would feel very comfortable that if I'm going to say something, I'm going to do what I say. I am one of those people who my word and my handshake means something. You know, I don't have a magic wand. I wish I did. I just don't. I do have a super skill where I mind my own business. So I'm not one of those nitpicky people who are looking in your backyard and making judgments. So long as you're following the law and you're being polite, life is good.
Do you have any final statements that you'd like to state before we finish?
Sure. If you're looking for someone who has experience, I think it's fair to say that I probably have the most public service experience of anyone running.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say I'm a fiscal conservative, very much so. And I'm a common sense person. I'm not going to promise you that we're always going to agree, because we're not. I've yet to meet that person I agree with 100% in this life. I'm still waiting. I'm hopeful, but I haven't found that person yet. But you will find that even if we disagree, I politely disagree with you. I am not going to call you names. I'm not going to ignore you. I am not going to blow you off. I am going to politely and respectfully listen to what you have to say. I'm going to take it into consideration, even if I completely disagree with you. Everyone has value. And I'm not a person who looks at labels. I don't put them on people. My concern is, are we moving Alaska forward in a positive way where families can live here, grow, have a good quality of life, and hopefully their great-grandkids are here.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for that.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, it was awesome talking to you. Again, everyone, your ballot will hit your mailbox probably around September 16th, so make sure to get that filled out and dropped off either in the mailbox or even better in person at your voter stations in your district. Yes, there is going to be specific areas in your district to drop off your ballot to, so please do that as well. Yeah, so especially with this mail-in environment, we just want to emphasize some good practices to make sure that your vote counts. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you again.